All right, everyone. Episode 17. I spit my gum out here. 17 episodes. Means we've been doing this for like third of a year already. Ridiculous. We'll see how long we go. Think we can make it to 170 episodes?
No.
I don't either. We'll see. I'm looking forward to football season, actually. The rhythm of that is easier for a podcast. So, how you doing?
Pretty good. Pretty good. Just got back from a walk. It is about as humid as a shower in northern Indiana right now.
Oh, wow.
The mosquitoes were out and about.
Yeah, must
How
be
you doing?
tough. Pretty good. Getting ready for vacation Bible school this week, so staying busy.
Nice.
But we're actually going to start the podcast with a moment of silence. It might actually be like 20 minutes of silence because podcast favorite Ronald Acuna Jr. tore his ACL. I've already been blamed by listeners of this podcast for his misfortune. Just fair. It's cost me a lot of money, so that's fine. Steve Bachman, Dad, cost you a lot of money too, so sorry. So here's our moment of silence. All right, that's it. We don't have time for this. It's ridiculous. But he is my favorite player, I think, because the Indians trade away all my favorite players. So it was sad for me. But he should be back right at the beginning of next season, if not, a week or two in. So if he keeps hitting, it's okay. Life will go on. All right. NBA Finals talk. I didn't watch game 1 or 2 because I was busy. I did watch game 3, and I have some significant thoughts, but I didn't be interested to hear what you have to say first.
So I did the inverse of that, and that I watched game 1 and 2 and did not watch game 3. Although
we got it covered then.
Highlights. So I think we can tackle it in between the yeah, whatever. Anyways, basically exactly what we thought was going to happen has happened in the series, and that a home team has won every single game, and as long as Ayton is healthy and not in foul trouble, the Suns are going to win the series. The second he gets in foul trouble, and you've got Kaminsky minutes and Torrey Craig minutes, and those are the guys that are trying to rim protect against Giannis, who's the best finisher in the NBA, you are completely screwed, especially if Booker is going to go 1 for 7 from 3. You're not going to win games like that.
Nope.
The Suns have not gotten to the rim at all, other than one random dunk over PJ Tucker by Cam Johnson, which was awesome. It's been all mid-range. So, yeah, I mean, to me, Ayton is key to the series, and that's what everyone's talking about. So it's not really a revolutionary take there.
No, you're right. And I mean, they count on him for so much, especially defensively and cleaning up the glass. The Bucks are big, and the move, I think, which is what they stuck with in game 3, is to just play big. They don't have enough guards that are any good at all to play small. So they're just going to play big and hope they can live through the pick and rolls that the Suns are going to run with their little guys. But if Ayton's not on the floor, they don't have a prayer to stop Giannis. And that's kind of what I was thinking as the series started, is like, what if Ayton can't handle Giannis, or if Ayton gets in foul trouble, they're cooked defensively and on the boards. Kaminsky moves around like someone with 2 torn ACLs. He's worthless. And all their big wings are all really skinny, so they got no chance of handling Giannis.
No.
Like, none of them are built like PJ Tucker, who you can at least say, well, there's a brick wall. You might be able to go over the brick wall. You can't go through it.
I mean, Craig is the only guy that has even a modicum of chance, and he's a complete zero on offense. Yeah. I mean, if you get Bridges switched onto Giannis or Cam Johnson, I mean, Cam Johnson has done admirable for what he is, which is basically you stretched out to 6'7". But he has no chance at all. And that's the problem. And what annoys me about playoff basketball is how much home field advantage or home court advantage matters for the foul calls. Like, call the game even in both areas. You're going to have the advantage of the crowd, obviously, and especially for Giannis shooting free throws. He looked so much more comfortable shooting with
13 for 18.
No countdown. In fact, you could actually, in the replays that I saw, you could literally hear the Suns fans in the Bucks stadium because the Bucks fans were so quiet.
Yeah.
But I mean, exactly what I thought was going to happen in game 3, and that the role players that were horrendous in Phoenix showed up a little bit. Drew Holiday found his shot. He was amazing defensively. The Suns couldn't make anything. I mean, they've shot 50% from 3 in game 2 and like 25% in game 3.
9 for 31. Not going to do it. I mean, here's the deal. You're right. Part of the deal with home court advantage, too, is that role players are comfortable at home. And so they will show up to those games. And it's what makes, this is going to pull something from way back. But, J.R. Smith played a huge role in the Cavs winning Game 7 in Golden State, which is, the most unlikely thing that's ever happened in the history of basketball. generally those kind of guys that are erratic are good at home and bad on the road, especially when the pressure cranks up. And we've seen that all 3 games. First 2 games, the Suns role players, I mean, good grief, they look like Michael Jordan. And game 3 were nowhere to be found. Meanwhile, you get all those guys getting comfortable from Milwaukee at home, and all of a sudden it's an absolute walkover. The one thing I will say, and who knows what will happen in this series, but the Bucks' best is better than the Suns' best. I actually don't think that can be argued because of the top level that Giannis can get to, and the fact that they have 2 other guys that are at their best are as good as Chris Paul and Booker. And so if Middleton and Drew can come close to canceling out Booker and Paul, then I think the Bucks win. The problem is Giannis is shaky sometimes too, we know, although, I mean, he's in a group of like LeBron, Shaq, Kareem, and somebody else with what he did in the last 2 playoff games in the finals. This is unbelievable. So I still think the Suns will win, but I don't know. I think they have to play the way they play, and if the Bucks are going to play like they did the other night, then they're out of options. That's the only issue there.
The other thing, looking over the stats of the entire series, is it is unbelievable how close all of the stats are, even though all 3 games have been at least 10-point games. I mean, they're both scoring essentially the exact same points per game. The Suns are +3 for the entire series. They're shooting essentially the exact same on threes, on the exact same attempts, the same from 2. Like, these teams are very, very, very close. Games have just gotten away basically at the end of games when they've all 3 been relatively close games, honestly. And I'm spacing out on what my point was going to be there.
It's okay. We're all allowed, but I'm not editing it out. I'll tell you that right
Keep it.
Yeah.
But I mean, to me, whoever wins game 4 is going to win the series, because if the Suns go up 3-1 and are going home, I think it's over. If the Bucks even it out and it looks like Giannis is just going to continue to dominate, and he's going to get calls. I mean, if he goes straight at Ayton to start every single game and draws 2 quick fouls, that game's over immediately.
Well, and honestly, that's kind of the deal. I think you can even accept being down after a quarter if you're just attacking him relentlessly and trying to get him into foul trouble, because that's the way you win the series. The Suns have lost all their depth with Saric getting hurt and so on.
And Payne has basically no show.
Yeah, it's just worthless at this point. And you know, it was relitigated, because Bill Simmons has mentioned this, I don't know, 1,000 times, but on the Bill Simmons podcast today about how brutal it is that they didn't take Halliburton with the 10th pick, which is exactly what this team needs, just a steadying force for their second team. They'd be untouchable. And then so they took a guy who in theory should be playing in this series when Ayton is out, but in reality can't get on the floor. And that pick was widely criticized when it was made, and that was correct. That's too bad.
Which I just find it hard to believe that he's going to be worse than Kaminsky is, because Kaminsky's not even providing offense. I mean, in theory, he should stretch the floor like Sarge did before he got hurt, and he's not even doing that. No, he's just a 0 across the board.
Yeah, it's not good. So game 4 is going to be really interesting, and I think if it's a good game, I think you can still say, like, okay, the Suns are right there. But if the Bucks blow them out again, I think the series has tilted to them. I think the Bucks can win, and you can still feel good about the Suns. But if the Bucks go out and Giannis lays a smackdown again, you start to go, there might be out of answers. And you see series happen like this sometimes, where like Budenholzer is clearly not as good a coach as Monty Williams. But when the right adjustments get made, and then it's like a checkmate, and the Suns have no other moves, that might be it. So I'm really intrigued to watch tomorrow night. And so, yeah, be watching for that.
And there's been a lot of hate over Coach Bud, but their offense has, in prior years in the playoffs, really, really bogged down. I mean, the Bucks had really, really great highs and really, really, really bad lows where they just look like they can't score, they can't move the ball at all. But they've done a lot of pick and roll action with people that you wouldn't expect, with like Holiday setting the screen or Middleton setting the screen, and no Drew Bledsoe.
No, definitely not Drew Bledsoe. Also Eric Bledsoe.
Or Eric Bledsoe as well, whatever.
Drew Bledsoe would also bog the offense down, yeah.
But, I mean, and using Giannis as a screener instead of point Giannis constantly, so you've got 4 shooters out and you've got your best player rolling to the basket. I mean, there's not a lot of superstars that are going to accept that role. I mean, this isn't how LeBron plays. It's not.
He's a finisher. Like
But
Shaq.
he sees himself as one of the best players in the NBA, like Durant, like LeBron, like
Well, he
Luka. Those
is.
players don't play like that. But he's more of an Anthony Davis Shaq combination, basically.
Yeah, he is, which is not a bad combination to be doing all right. So, yes, even though I'm sure the NBA would have preferred some different teams in the finals, I think it's an interesting series with a couple of teams who the Bucks haven't won since like the 70s, and Suns have never won. So it'll be cool. All right. We have no animal facts this week. It's okay. Here's a fact. Siberian Huskies are the coolest dogs. All right, we're moving on. Things we hate. I mentioned this to you this week, and then you mentioned something you hate on what I hate. So I'm going to go first this time, which I rarely do. But so back when we were in school, I always thought it was amazing that people had perfect attendance. And like I graduated with people who, when they graduated, they got this big certificate for having perfect attendance from kindergarten to 12th grade. And I was like, wow, that is remarkable. They never lied to their parents and stayed home sick one day, or like didn't go on vacation, or like dad used to pull us out and take us to Wrigley Field, which come on, that's good parenting. I don't care what anyone says.
Absolutely.
But here's what I know now, being a parent. That just means that the parents sent their kids to school sick all the time. And then that's why I got sick. And that's why other people got sick. And those kids were miserable. This is not a good thing. This is a thing I hate. Perfect attendance. You should not be rewarding perfect attendance. You could do like no unexcused absences or something. Like I wasn't truant. We were fine. But like if you're in perfect attendance from kindergarten to 12th grade, it means you infected a whole bunch of kids in your school with colds and flu. That's all that it means. Like I have little kids. They get sick constantly. Because little kids just like touch stuff and then put their hand in their mouth and then wipe their snot and then wipe it on something else. And then someone else comes along and touches that and put their hand in their mouth. Like it's impossible. Little kids are just like cesspools of germs, and they give them freely. It's like their kids are very giving. They tend to be, and that includes with sickness. So if you think it's like admirable that you're sending your kid to school with 101-degree fever because they're going to get perfect attendance, that's trash. Keep them home. Keep everybody safe. Come on. Also COVID. Go ahead.
So coming from someone who played sick about once a week from
true.
Middle school through high school, sorry, Mom. Obviously not a proponent for perfect attendance. In fact, I laughed at those people on a daily basis because just take a break. And in my opinion, we're teaching our kids that you should live to work instead of work to live, which I'm not a proponent of. In fact, I'm a very big proponent of the 4-day work week, not 4/10s. 32 hours a week. There's been studies and studies and studies showing that you're actually more productive and you don't lose anything with profits. You actually have more productive and happier employees.
But
so
even if
that's one reason.
I'm in on that too.
I'm also in on that. Absolutely. The second thing is one of the big things working in the healthcare industry that we see, and we deal a lot with nursing schools and whatnot. I have obviously plenty of friends that are going through nursing school or that went through nursing school or that are recent grads from nursing school. And one of the big things, and this was the same for Amanda as well, is there was a 0 or 100%, like you had to go to every single class and you absolutely had to go to every single clinical. There was absolutely no leniency there at all. So if you're deathly sick or your grandparent dies or your parents in the hospital or your brother's getting married, you have no excuses to go. I mean, to propose to a medical assistant school, I literally had to call her professor and ask if I could get her a day out of clinicals. The only reason she said yes is because I'd take all of her students. So it's to me is ridiculous. So this was just made a million times worse with COVID though, because not only did you have nurses in COVID units and being exposed and nursing students being exposed, but I had an acquaintance or she's a friend, but I'm not going to say her name so we don't get her in trouble here, but she had COVID and she either got it from us or she was patient 0 and gave it to us and went to her clinical rotation the next whole week with Kleenex stuffed in her nose under her mask, could hardly speak, about to pass out. They finally figured out, hey, she's super sick. Oh, wait, she just exposed our entire unit and all of our students and preceptors to COVID. Now everyone has to go home for a week. Your policies are stupid. They're really outdated. Now, it's obviously a little bit different in the nursing profession in that if you have 312s a week, you have to show up to those 312s because your patients are relying on you and you probably are understaffed and don't have anyone to fill in. But you also have 4 other days of the week that you're off that you can recover and figure it all out. I hate perfect attendance. Could go on and on and on.
Great. This has been a great segment. I've enjoyed it thoroughly. And I won't be there for the podcast next week because we don't like perfect attendance.
I'm going to call mom and try to call off about 10 minutes before.
All you got to do is just put the thermometer in the light, but you can't put it in there too long because it's like
130 degrees.
Yeah. Oh, you're dead, actually. Cool. So anyhow, all right. We kind of are in a rhythm right now, which I want to break us out of a little bit because we talk basketball and then we talk some random stuff and then we talk baseball. But listen, there's not like you want to talk about the most dead dates of the sports season. I like the All-Star game in baseball, kind of. It's fine. I don't really care. So that's the only thing happening tonight. And last night, the only thing happening was the home run derby, and Ohtani got knocked out right away, which was sad.
That was a bummer.
He put on a good show, and Pete Alonso was made to hit home runs.
And he's a huge pull hitter, so the home run derby is
perfect. And I watched. You should look at this if you care about this, which almost none of you will. You know how they do pitch overlays where like they'll show a really good pitcher where he has the same release point and then like his fastball, curveball, two-seamer, or whatever, they'll all like diverge basically. They did a pitch overlay of the guy pitching to Pete Alonso, just this old batting practice pitcher, and everything just was like 4 pitches. It was a 4 pitch in a row sequence, and they all went to the exact same spot, like right where. And that's honestly, you got to find one of those people for the home run derby because there were guys like Soto got some pitches that were like. He's swinging.
Like I was throwing sliders up there.
Yeah, in off the plate and stuff. It was the craziness. So that guy did also throw one behind Soto on purpose,
which was hilarious.
But anyhow, we love baseball, but those being the only thing that's happening in sports on a night on the calendar is tough.
I got 2 notes here. One, Ohtani was hysterical. I don't know if you listened to his interview at all, but he had his interpreter be his catcher, and his reasoning for that was because he knew that someone being out there with him more nervous than he was would calm him down a little bit. And he looked nervous to start. I mean, he was spiking balls into the ground and everything. And then I don't know if you saw him be terrified of the Gatorade girl that snuck up on him right as he was done hitting. She like snuck up behind him. He wasn't expecting her. About fell over. Then he goes and sits on the Gatorade. It's like a cooler. He's sitting on a cooler and he's trying to open the cooler, but he's sitting on it and he never figures it out. Someone just has to come and bring him a water bottle.
He seems to be like one of these just incredibly lovable people, which brings me to a couple more things I hate. All right, you ready?
Stephen A. Smith?
Yes, I do hate Stephen A. Smith. Back in the day when him and Skip Bayless were on the same show, I would have rather put my head against a chainsaw than listen to that garbage.
I would have rather listened to Lima Beans talk.
Yeah, or put them in my mouth, which is a disaster. Lima Beans are disgusting people. People have been fired for less. And it's just, I've always found him to be a little out of touch and a lot obnoxious. And I don't know. This is brutal what he said. And if you haven't seen it, go look it up. It's frustrating that people still say stuff like that in this day and age. But I am perfectly fine with Ohtani being one of the faces of baseball, and I care less whether he speaks English. And
he does speak English, though.
Well,
he speaks fantastic English.
I don't care if he doesn't speak one word of it. I don't care. If he can hit 30 home runs and strike everyone out, I don't give a crap.
Well, and Ichiro's the same exact way, and that Ichiro's English was actually worse than Ohtani's is. Ohtani's is great. Ichiro did his interviews in Japanese because all his fans were Japanese speaking, and then the interpreter caught the rest of us up. Ohtani does it for the same exact reason. Although Ichiro was a little unconfident with his English, who cares? You're watching the guy to play baseball, not to listen to him talk about how to play baseball. I mean, he was one of the greatest players of all time, and Ohtani is well on his way.
Yeah,
I could care less.
I got to take a break. One of my kids is crying, and Emily's at the grocery store. I'll be right back. Definitely Kate that was crying. She was snoring when I got in there, so who knows?
Quick recovery.
Yeah. All right, we're back. We were talking
Keep that
about
all.
Yeah, I might actually. I'll probably cut the silence, but no, I like Ichiro. Actually, I saw someone who had a quote from him that basically was like, "Look, I am really care about baseball, and I really care about what I say about baseball, and so I'm going to say it in the language that I'm most comfortable in, and I have fans. Most of my fans are Japanese, and Like this whole, like, you come to the United States, you have to speak English, you got to throw away your culture. Like, get out of here with that. It's ridiculous. All right. What have been the highlights of the first half of the baseball season for you? Because it sure isn't your team.
Well, the one thing I did want to point out, one more point about the home run derby. I don't know if any of our wonderful listeners or if you remember the guy in the playoffs last year at the baseball game in the left field. I don't remember which team was playing. He caught a home run ball, and instead of throwing the ball back onto the field, he threw his glove and just hucked his glove back onto the field. So we were watching the home run derby last night at one of my buddies' houses with my brother-in-law, and he goes, "Holy smokes, that's Kevin." The guy's name is Kevin Sauer. He's my father-in-law's best friend. He popped up for 20, maybe not even a full second in left field, pointed him out. Big old gray mullet. He's fantastic. So
Amazing.
I had to give him a shout out there.
You see the guy
Guarantee he doesn't listen to the pod, but
no, I'm sure. You see the guy that flipped over the railing trying to catch
into the
tough one.
All right, there. That's a rough one.
Oh, I didn't want to say one more thing. I follow a lot of baseball writers and football and basketball writers on Twitter because I try to keep in touch with things. And as we all know, a lot of those people tend to be a little bit left-leaning, which when it comes to labor stuff, I tend to be too, when it comes to players versus owners and that kind of thing. But I'm going to say something that flies in the face of most of those people. If you get picked to play in the All-Star game, you should freaking go play in the All-Star game, especially when we're talking about baseball, which is a sport that badly needs energy and badly needs its stars to show up for its fans. For all of the Astros not to show up, like, we all know why they didn't come. They're going to get booed to death. Great. You deserve it. Show up. You've earned your All-Star game nods. Go play in the All-Star game. Even, like, I know the Mets need to win and so on, but, like, for DeGrom not to get lined up to pitch in the All-Star game when his ERA is at 1 is terrible for baseball. All this stuff, like, it is great for baseball that Ohtani is leading off and pitching tonight. That's what we need. We need young stars with personality. It's why Acuna getting hurt stinks so bad. It's why it's so great that Tatis is back and healthy and raking. We need all that stuff. And so I understand that you don't owe the game anything, whatever. But you do owe the fans who pay your salaries. And to not show up for the All-Star game, even just show up and play an inning and be done, like, I don't know. I'm not pro-owner ever, but as someone who loved playing baseball and would do it for free, it's a little disheartening to see stars say, "Yeah, I'm not going to show up for that game." And
it's the highest honor in your sport outside of winning the World Series. I mean, and you do owe the game. You're being paid to play a game. I know you work really, really hard at it, obviously, but
yeah. I don't have an all-star game at church I get to go to because I work hard during the year. Like, come on, let's go. Figure it out. You don't have an HR all-star game with Goshen Health.
In fairness, we do have awards, and I don't really want to go to those, but
no, that's a little different.
I'm not getting paid to go to them.
Yeah. So anyhow, we're in agreement on that. Anyhow, I did. If you want to see someone take Stephen A to task, by the way, go watch a clip of just Jeff Passan today, basically going on First Take and saying, "Get it together, Stephen A." I did enjoy that. All right, highlights of the first half. Ohtani is one for me. We don't even need to relitigate that. We've talked about him a ton on this podcast.
Yeah, obviously.
The Yankees sucking.
Well, the Yankees are terrible. The Twins won 4 in a row going into the All-Star break. Boston, surprisingly good, and got really lucky in the draft the other night. Got arguably the top prospect at 4?
Yeah,
high school shortstop prospect. White Sox are going to roll all over the AL Central. And it's not a highlight. It's going to be close. Are you talking things that I'm excited about?
No, I said highlights of the first half of the season.
Well, okay. The Cubs losing 12 in a row, 14 in a row. The Cardinals stinking, also awesome.
That's nice because I bet on them to win the Central.
The Giants winning the NL West currently, I find hilarious.
Me too, especially because we both took them as a lock to be under their win total. They need to win like 10 more games.
The Diamondbacks having 26 wins because I have a ton of friends in the Phoenix area, and I find that hysterical. And a couple of them are huge baseball fans, so it's great. All of the NL East being awful is also fun for me because I don't like any of those teams. Yeah, it's about all I've got for highlights as far as teams are concerned. Buxton was a highlight for about 12 games.
He is who you thought he was.
Vlad Guerrero is
Yes,
amazing.
he was going to be on my list for sure. And then DeGrom. It's just a pleasure to watch that guy pitch. He throws 94-mile-per-hour changeups. It's insanity.
It's not even fair.
No, it's not. And it's
But
clearly not.
The other thing is the home run renaissance. I mean, to me, it's a positive and a negative. One, it's a lot of boom or bust, but also if you look at the leaderboard right now, I mean, there are multiple guys on track to near 60 home runs this year, which is kind of exciting. It hasn't happened in a long time.
It's true. Which leads us to, you know what, we're going to save that for later. We're going to, one of the next couple weeks, we're going to talk about what's wrong, what should be fixed with baseball. We've been teasing that for a long time. I don't think I have the energy to go into it because I've already got lots of other stuff I'm angry about.
I've got some serious takes. We're going to go all the way through banana ball rolls.
Okay, great. We're gonna do 20 minutes on that next week. So be prepared to shut the podcast off then. We did mention anything you want to watch, anything you're excited about for the second half of the season.
I think the Angels might make a little bit of a run. I think they've got to trade in them for an arm or 7. They need all 7.
Ooh, a note. Do you know they took 20 pitchers out of their 20 draft picks in the draft this week?
I see. The Angels. Oh, they need it. But Trout is on the comeback trail. I mean, he's not too far away, correct? And you add him to that lineup, and if Ohtani keeps raking and Upton gets going a little bit, and it's some really good lineup. I mean, you hit on this last week. And
really good. Terrifying.
Speaking for the Angels for 4 years, and you've been wrong constantly, and I'm going to jump on the bandwagon because I love watching.
Great, because I'm jumping off. They don't have any pitching. They have no, Andrew Haney's like their number 2.
They've got it. You've got to think they're going to make some trades.
Yeah, we'll see.
I think the Blue Jays are going to make a run in the AL East as well.
Interesting. My take is that I think the Dodgers are going to go like 65-15 or something. I think they're just going to roll off just an unbelievable run. And then we're going to go, oh, shucks. They're going to just win it all again. I like the Yankees to continue to implode. I also like the Red Sox to come crashing back to earth significantly. And I do agree with you. I think the Blue Jays take the place of the Red Sox in the NL East. And I still think the Braves are going to win the NL East. Still, even without Acuna. I do. There's just something about them. I think they're going to win it still. I think the Mets are no good. Actually, I know the Mets are no good. So we'll see. Those are my second half thoughts. All right. I asked you to come up with a long shot bet for the second half of the baseball season. You got one?
It was my Angels take.
Okay.
I've got the Angels winning the AL West.
What is that? Like plus 5,000, I think, right?
Yeah, I don't have it in front of me, but
I looked at that for a second and then I laughed about it. It is plus 5,000. They have the same odds
5,000.
basically as the Mariners, who are really bad.
Who are surprisingly over 500 though.
Yeah, they are. They're like 6 games over actually, but everybody knows it's nonsense. All right, I have 2 picks. One, they basically have decided on FanDuel that Tatis and DeGrom are co-front runners to win the MVP in the National League. Here's the problem. They're both injury prone. Now, I don't want either of them to get hurt. For the DeGrom thing, I just love watching him pitch. For the Tatis thing, I have like 150 of his cards at PSA coming back from grading, and I need him to stay healthy so I can make thousands of dollars. But here's the guy that will win the NL MVP if something weird happens. It's Trey Turner. He's awesome. The Nationals absolutely could get hot and win the NL East. They are already starting to show signs of it. Obviously, losing Schwarber doesn't help. But they have some guys coming back to pitch. Strasburg should be back at some point. Soto is really getting it going all of a sudden. And Trey Turner.
He hit a ball 520 feet last night.
Yes, he did. It's unbelievable. But Trey Turner is awesome. He's one of those guys that if you don't watch the games, you might not know, but he's really, really great. And so at plus 2,500, it's sprinkle $10 on there, and all of a sudden you can be rich after he wins the MVP. He probably won't, but he's my long shot pick for MVP. Another long shot bet is the Red Sox not to make the playoffs at plus 370. They don't have enough pitching. now. Chris Sale's supposed to come back. He hasn't pitched in like 5 years. I'm still like Martin Perez is starting to turn into a pumpkin. So is Eduardo Rodriguez has been bad all year. Evaldi's okay. I don't know. I don't think they have enough pitching to hang in that division. I actually think the Yankees offense is going to get going a little bit, and then you're pitching to the Yankees and the Rays and the Blue Jays, the Orioles.
The Orioles.
Well, Cedric Mullins, baby, and Mancini. The Orioles at least have some makings of some interesting things coming. They've got some good young guys ready to go. So those are my 2 long shot bets. All right, you ready for me to be angry about something again? For you soccer people who thought you would never hear any soccer talk on this podcast, here it comes. It's not going to be positive. Oh, the start is going to be positive. I'll be honest, soccer has grown on me. I used to really hate soccer. I still don't understand how it can be I do know. I know it's the most popular sport around the world because it's the simplest of the popular sports. It is easy to play in areas where you don't have a lot. And so if you can get some kind of ball together and something to kick it into, you've got soccer. It is the simple man's game. You can call it the beautiful game if you want, but we all know that that's baseball, actually, or basketball. But here's the deal. I actually enjoy watching like high-level soccer, especially when you get into like the semis and the finals of these big tournaments where in Europe people are literally like living and dying by it, which is awesome. And people are like, you see the fans in the stands on Sunday, like they can't watch the game. It's too stressful for them. And I love that because that's what sports are all about, like caring that much and then hopefully having a perspective a few hours later that like there are more important things in life. Although in Europe, I don't think that's actually how they feel.
It's time to start flipping cars.
Yeah, maybe. But here's the thing with soccer that is hard for me. You have this like incredible, this game is like Italy hadn't won since like 76, and England's never won the European Championship, which seems impossible to me. And you have this game, if England scores right away, 2 minutes into the game, and then basically just like drops back into a shell, like a turtle. They get a weird carom, Italy scores. And then the two teams basically from like 70 minutes on just pass the ball back and forth to each other to make sure that no one scored. And then like extra time was even worse, the 2 extra periods. It was literally like, oh, is that upward soccer practice that I run? Or is these are the best players in the world? It was miserable. And then that ends, this culmination of all of these games with all of these moments of incredible and a lot of own goals too, ends in a shootout. Now, no one can deny the excitement of a shootout, right? Like when I run sports camps, we do soccer shootouts. The kids lose their mind. It's great, blah, blah, blah. But it's like if in baseball, you had this incredible matchup in the year 2023 of Jacob deGrom against Ohtani in the World Series, Game 7, right? And they both throw 9 innings, 1 run, 12 strikeouts. We get to the 10th inning, and everybody stops, and they say, okay, we're sending out that guy from Pete Alonso's home run derby to throw batting practice. We'll have a home run derby to decide the World Series. It has no bearing on what has happened in all 7 games. It's just it's a totally different competition that doesn't reward the right things to really know who should have won the game. I understand you can't play a soccer game for 200 minutes, but it's a terrible way to decide a championship. Sorry.
I have one variant on that baseball scenario that you threw
okay,
out that
Loki.
I'm 100% down for. So instead of bringing out the BP pitcher, deGrom stays out, faces Ohtani, 1 at bat. If he strikes him out, Mets win. If Ohtani makes contact, he just starts running around the bases until deGrom fields it and then has to throw the ball at him to get him out.
Like last batter in T-ball.
Yeah, it is, literally, except there's no fielders. It's just deGrom having to chase the ball down.
That's the stupidest idea I've ever heard. Ohtani's very fast, though. If he hit the ball anywhere, he would score for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess if deGrom could throw it at him, like I wonder how fast he could throw if he crow hops. Like 100.
Yeah, I mean, there's still the catcher, so he could throw the ball home from anywhere that he gets
it. Okay.
And he can also smoke him.
It's so stupid. It's like Hunger Games.
Do not act like that wouldn't be exciting. You can't.
But then people like Ohtani would get hurt badly. This is dumb. This is the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
I'm all in for it. You can wear armor if you want, like the full-on just body armor.
How would
everywhere.
you hit if you? Oh my gosh. Anyhow, I'm excited to watch the World Cup coming up. I'm excited to
love the World
care
Cup.
more about stuff like the European Championship and stuff like that. I'm going to pick a country and decide that they're my country. But it's just a brutal way to decide weeks and weeks of competition. It doesn't have any real correlation to what had been happening on the pitch.
So would you be like
kids?
Would you be a proponent of golden goal? Or what is your solution?
Yes. Like, I think you play your 2 15s. Oh, here's the other thing. And this is not my original thought, but like, you have to come up with a better substitution way of subbing. So like, you can bring a guy that's exhausted off and then bring him back on one time. Because if you're going to not have penalties, you can't expect someone to play 150 minutes. Those guys are in unbelievable shape the way it is. I don't know how the midfielders get up and down for 90 minutes. Like 9 minutes is quite long enough for me. Thanks. But yes, I would play golden goal after 120 minutes. I might play golden goal after 90 minutes. Just say, look, like the next goal is the goal. And then you can sit back in a shell, but you better have a good counterattack or else you're never going to get a chance to score. So I do love soccer. To me, putting on a good soccer game is like watching golf on a Sunday afternoon. It's like, it's very relaxing, but you can tell when something's about to happen, so you can pay attention. But I'm out on penalty kicks. Even though it was wildly exciting, it leaves you feeling empty at the end of the day. I don't know. I don't love it. I actually kind of feel the same way about the home run derby and the slam dunk contest. At the end, I'm kind of like, meh, okay, whatever. Let's move on. Speaking of which, we need to move on. Do you have anything you want to add about soccer?
No. I mean, I do enjoy the World Cup. I didn't get into the Euros at all just because I have not had time, but I'm sure I would have enjoyed it. I do actually enjoy watching soccer. I just don't know what I'm talking about until it's national teams. So
yeah. Well, and I've been running a soccer league for 7 or 8 years now. I've grown to love soccer. I love coaching soccer. My kids love soccer. I don't have any issue with soccer like I did when I was younger, but I kind of wish I would have played in high school at this point. Just the people who think that like soccer is clearly the best sport, I have no time for those people, because like it's clearly not, but it's a really great sport and I love playing soccer. Like, I love it. I really enjoy playing soccer. So let's move on. Family fiasco. There's been a lot of me talking on this podcast, and that's not going to stop right here, because you don't have a family fiasco this week.
Nope.
But I do. So I mentioned this briefly last week, but it has taken on new life this week. We sent our kids to summer camp, the summer camps which are run by me at the church. So it's not like I can blame anyone else here. It's the first real like indoor thing we've done with lots of kids since the pandemic started. It has been bad down here almost from the jump. We've tried to be really careful. Emily was pregnant when the pandemic started, and then we've had a baby at home. So you just never know. And so we've been really careful. We sent them to summer camp. And Kate Friday came home and was just sick. Coughing up a storm. That leads into a fever, leads into some other stuff. As that's happening, Micah gets sick. We're like, oh gosh, here we go. No, Ben gets sick, but he seems okay. So we're like, great. We send Micah to camp the next week. On Friday, it seems like she might be struggling. By the time she gets home on Friday, speaking of perfect attendance, she's like clearly worn down. Like, she was not acting sick, but you can kind of like see it in the eyes of kids.
Yep.
She was still fine. Saturday, she wakes up definitely sick. Ben then swings it back around. He's now definitely sick also, and like struggling badly. We actually get him up in the middle of the night a couple nights ago, take him to urgent care, because he sounds like the penguin in Toy Story 2. He is like, I mean, Kyle knows he had asthma pretty bad as a kid. I mean, he is like, so we take him. Poor little guy's got to get these breathing treatments with this mask that he wants to like friggin' fight. So we have just been sick and sick and sick all week. Luckily the girls are better, and Ben is back to his self now today, finally. But it has been, we've basically been sick for like
2 weeks,
12 days here. So that's been our fiasco. The worry is because we've basically been so cautious, we have no real immunity to anything in this family right now. I do because I've been with kids a lot, but so when the girls go back to school, I'm sure we're just going to be sick all the time, which is miserable. So
it's really exciting.
It's
look
the
forward to.
worst. It's the worst. So, all right, I'm finally done. Do you have recommendations for this week?
I just have one. We've been watching a show, and it's not really a new show, and I can't actually believe I've never watched it because it was my wheelhouse. It's Aliens. It's kind of scary. It's true crime. It's fantastic. Well, true crime very loosely. X-Files. It's the best.
Literally nothing true about X-Files.
Oh, it's all true. Every story is true. It's all based off of true events.
No, it's not.
I believe every single episode, and it's awesome.
Okay. Great. I'm actually surprised you never watched that too. It does seem right in your wheelhouse. Mm-hmm. Speaking of aliens and stuff, we have been watching Loki on Disney Plus, and I'm not really a superhero guy, but this show is great. So it's only going to be 6 episodes. The 6th one drops sometime in the middle of the night tonight, I think. But it's really good, actually. And I'm not someone that's like over here crying when Iron Man dies in Endgame, because
holy spoiler alert.
Well, it's like it was out like 5 years ago, and literally everyone in the world saw it. So
I haven't seen it.
I mean, there were grown men crying in the theater, and to that I say, I don't know, man. I don't know. But we all have our things. So I almost cried when Acuna tore his ACL. So who am I to judge anyone?
I cried during a barbecue show this year, so there is that.
A what?
The Great American Barbecue Challenge.
Oh, yeah, that seems to get people. All right, well,
that's a recommendation as well. Watch that. Fantastic. It's on Netflix. It doesn't bring you to tears. You're not American.
Wow, that's a lot. That's a pretty heavy-handed sentence.
That's my Stephen A. Smith take right there.
Stephen A. By the way, lost in the shuffle is the stuff Stephen A. said about the Nigerian basketball team. Also terrible.
I didn't hear what he said about that, but I did have one take on the USA basketball team here before we close it up. So for those of you who don't know, we're huge fans of international competition. We love the Olympics. Growing up, we used to sit around the TV that's like the size of my thumb and black and white.
Well, we had to rent it. We would borrow TV because we didn't have a TV for a long time. It was
unbelievable. So that's a failure. But it was good bonding time because we literally had to like be on top of each other to watch this. True. So one thing that I didn't realize that they added to international competition this year is that you can actually tank for the draft. So apparently Team USA is tanking for a chance of Cade Cunningham.
Who are they going to draft? You're going to get Giannis from Greece?
No, they're tanking for Cunningham. They're going to get the first pick in the lottery.
They already have Cunningham. He's from the United States.
I know, but it's just ridiculous. I mean, we lost Australia last night. It's a team. It reminds me of the 2004 team, which was Iverson and Marbury, and this is super young LeBron and super young Melo, and all it was horrendous defenders and ISO players, and that's what this team is. I mean, they desperately need Chris Paul or something along those lines. I mean, and what they're going to add even after the NBA Finals are done, 2 good players, but neither one of them's point guard really.
Is it Middleton and Drew?
No, Holiday. Booker. 3. Booker, Middleton, Holiday, and
they need LeBron.
Mm-hmm.
That's not going to happen though. What about Anthony Davis and his groin? Maybe he could play.
I mean, they desperately need him.
I do kind of love not knowing if the United States will win though. It does make watching the games more interesting.
It does, until you see Kevin Love and Jeremy Grant running around out there, and you're like, "What on earth is representing?"
Well, no, that's not amazing at all. Is it hard for you when the Olympics are on tape delay like they're going to be this year because they're in Japan? Because I hate it.
Yeah, it's not ideal. I mean, I'm obviously not going to be up in the middle of the night watching them streaming online. So,
but here's my final recommendation: watch handball. Find where it's on, watch it, and then imagine if all of our best athletes played handball. How great it would be!
Oh, it'd be amazing
if we just took the men's basketball team and trained them for a month on handball. We could be gold medalists in that because we might not win the gold in basketball. So, all right, we should probably be done. My lovely wife just walked in the door, and hopefully she brought me some snacks or something. All right. To all of our listeners, we love you. Good night. Go Bucks, I guess. I don't know.
Oh, go Phoenix.
Nah,
Go Chris Paul.
I don't like Chris Paul. We talked about this last week. All right, Lucas, go to bed.